In this video, I'm going to chat with you about healing the waters through self-love. Now, this is quite a novel idea, and I've never had this idea before. However, and really it didn't come from me, I must say. However, last week when I was doing my YouTube live stream on the alchemy of 2026, during that live stream, I channeled 4 Roseline beings. And the first Roseline being that came through was Aphrodite. And she shared this concept. I'll go into it a little bit more in case you missed that live stream. And if you did miss it, I recommend watching it because there were some quite powerful messages, simple but powerful messages from Aphrodite, from Rumi, from Hildegard of Bingen, and Mary Magdalene. And then they all sort of wove together and created a beautiful story. So, but anyway, Aphrodite was sharing about this healing the waters through self-love. And I was pondering it this morning as I walked along the beach in the waters. And I was thinking about my journey with the Roseline. And alongside that journey, there has always been the mer-line, I was calling it. So when I first began to write about the Roseline in 2004, and I was writing the stories of some of the Roseline beings, but this kept coming in about the mer-line, and more recently I would recognize it as the line of the Mary. And I think they weave together beautifully and often are the same, but there's still a slightly different energy to the line of the Mary or the mer-line and the Roseline. Now, obviously, Mary, as in Mother Mary, is very much associated with the roses. And also, I mean, the Mary frequency is the frequency of the waters. So they do closely weave together. And so a couple of years ago when Aphrodite revealed herself to me, I think when I was actually in Europe near an Aphrodite temple site, and she revealed herself to me as being part of the Roseline. And I've really, I've explored her more and more, and her frequency, and allowed her frequency to come through me. And I've even included, she is a part of the Pyrenees journey that I'm doing this year through the Eastern Pyrenees, because we begin that journey at or very near the Venus Aphrodite temple, which was the beginning of the Way of the Stars, the original Camino before it was Christianized. And so she's a powerful frequency, and often she's associated with love, with beauty, you know, the Venusian qualities. But she's revealing deeper levels to me. And so when she came through last week talking about self-love and that this is the way to heal the waters, it's like she's taken me deeper into my understanding of her and her frequency and the frequency of water. Now, generally, we are becoming more aware of water and that it is a lot more than we ever recognized. And, you know, we had this, well, we sort of, for a lot of us, that awareness first came with Emoto's work. And then, of course, now Veda Austin is bringing through a whole new level of that work. And I was very blessed to have time with Veda in Egypt in November, because she was a part of the journey that I was on, and she was collecting waters from many of the Egyptian temples that we went to. And in a couple of weeks, we're having a call with her to find out the results, what she discovered. And then they'll be made public about a week later on her webinar. But I've really gained a deeper appreciation of the consciousness of water through Veda's work. And as part of that and that awareness, and I'm sure you'll be the same, I bless the water more. So I bless the water I'm drinking or showering in or swimming in, not always consciously, but I hold that energy. I'm putting that love out into the water. Now, when Aphrodite came through in this channeling on the live stream, she brought a different perspective to that. So what she was saying in that is, actually, I'm going to just one more little aside. This came about when I was listening to a conversation between Matthias De Stefano and Stuart Pearson. He was interviewing Matthias. And Matthias was talking about the elements, the 4 elements, earth, wind, fire, water, and how each of them has one main element in it. You know, I'd never even made the connection between them being called elements and the elements that make up those things. So water is mainly hydrogen. And hydrogen actually comes from the sun. It's the light of the sun. And so basically water is composed of light, the light of the sun. And this sort of sat there in my, I mean, I was conscious of it, but it was just sort of sitting just beneath the conscious part of myself. And it was really interesting then when I was channeling Aphrodite and this came through as part of it. And what she talked about in that channeling is that the light quotient of water is determined by how much we love ourselves, how much we respect ourselves, how much we honor ourselves. So whenever we take in water or swim in water or bathe in water, that water that enters our body, breathe in water, that water that enters our body is the light quotient of that water can be enhanced if we are in a frequency of self-love. So if the water that's in our bodies, and we're mostly composed of water, the water that's in our bodies, if we are holding quite severe judgment about ourselves, we're always down on ourselves, we show many actions or we perform many actions that do not show a love for ourselves, the water is passing through that container. And so the light quotient of the water decreases. And when the water leaves you through sweat, through urine, through breath, however it's leaving you, when it leaves you, it's carrying your frequency out into the world. And if that frequency is judgment and just a lack of self-love and self-respect, that stays within that water's consciousness and then goes to the next person or to the plant or wherever in that consciousness. So it's like you're a filter. And if water passes through you and you honor yourself, you are someone who honors yourself as a spark of the divine. You love who you are. You love the body you've chosen. You honor it. You respect it. You are gracious towards it and grateful for it. Well, that water is getting filtered in that energy, so the light quotient of that water increases. So how that water is then carried out to the world and what it takes to the world is quite different. So that water might be absorbed by someone who has chosen a life of a lot of struggle, or it might go to a place where there's war, but it's bringing some light. And the more of us that hold this frequency of light, I mean, we know this anyway, the more light holders there are, the increased light there is on the planet. And the more that others are affected by that light and uplifted by that light. But this is like taking it a step further and saying, and that light is in the water. That light's in the water of your body. So although it's still beautiful and has a very positive impact to bless the water externally, to send your energy out to the water, if you're doing that blessing, but you're coming from a place of self-judgment and sending that out, you're not having as much impact on the water as you would if you are in a state of self-love. And it really is the water moving through you, the water being touched by you, that enables that light to be activated in the water if you are in that space of self-love. So actually Aphrodite, she's talked about being love and beauty, but it's love and beauty internally. It's self-love. This is what she's teaching us. She's bringing this message of the waters. She arose from the waters. This is why she is the love. She's the love for self. And this is what she's showing us. So I found that such a beautifully powerful message, and I've enjoyed sitting with the energy of it and also observing my energy around it and observing the times when I judge myself or don't show compassion to myself, just maybe belittle myself in some way. And I've been aware enough to shift it, to be able to change that story a little bit most times. But being very conscious that when I do that, I am affecting that water in my being, and therefore I am helping the planet. Because when that water leaves my being, it carries that elsewhere. So I'm so interested to hear from your perspective, like, how does that feel for you? Is that a new, maybe you've heard of that before, or is it a new idea for you? Is it sort of a little bit of a shift in the way that you have viewed loving the water and where the water's frequency comes from and how it's impacted? So I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Aphrodite brought that through, and perhaps there's a deeper level of it that I'm not grasping yet. Well, undoubtedly there would be, but this is a very simple expression of it. And so I would love to actually, no, before I do that, I'm going to share. I drew a couple of cards. I've got 2 water decks. So I thought I would draw a card from each deck for this. So first card I drew from Rebecca Campbell's Healing Waters deck. Okay, probably need to bring that a little closer. And I haven't used this deck much, but it wanted to be drawn. And interestingly, the card, I'll actually show it on the screen rather than hold it up so you see it more clearly. It's stagnant waters, feeling stuck, a call for shifts, flow, and change. And I was thinking about this in relation to this self-love, when we are not truly loving ourselves, it's almost like the waters within us do become stagnant in terms of the light that they hold. So I thought that was quite a beautiful card, and it's such a gorgeous image of surrendering and trusting, and there's a sense of fullness. When you're full within yourself, then the waters also become full. And then the second card is from the Water Temple Oracle deck, and the card is Aquasulus, rejuvenation. I cherish the time I devote to myself. And I'd like to rephrase that a little bit. What if you just simply said, I cherish myself? Think about the frequency that would be giving the waters in your being if you said, I cherish myself. That's a very high light quotient. So those cards are beautiful in their own way, and perhaps they speak to you in a different way. And share, please put in the comments if there's something that's very resonant with you. Interesting, the Aquasulus, because that's representing the baths in Rome. Sorry, not in Rome. The baths in Bath, the Roman baths in Bath in England. So very, interesting as well, that energy. So yeah, I'd love to know how those cards speak to you and how they maybe help your understanding of this topic. And so I'd like us just to do a little water ceremony. And if you haven't got any water with you now, that's okay. But if you have, pick up the glass. If you haven't, you can do it later. Pick up the glass, and you might like to do a blessing on the water before you begin. What I suggest, though, for something a little different, is you hold the water, hold the glass, close your eyes, and then go into your heart. And perhaps you can say to yourself, I cherish myself. I cherish myself. And there might be another phrase. You might prefer to say, I love myself. I honor myself. I respect myself. However you wish to phrase it. And as you're feeling that in your heart, take a sip of the water. And as that water moves through your being, feel that energy from your heart, that beautiful message you've given yourself. Feel it infuse that water. Infuse the light quotient of that water. And as that water moves through your whole body, it carries that frequency. Now, you might find that this is something you choose to do consciously, even just once a day. Or it might be something that you just do when you think of it. Or you may simply decide that you are going to spend more time uplifting yourself and loving yourself rather than pulling yourself down and judging yourself and not even think about the water. But in doing that, you are definitely going to impact the water that goes into your being. Another insight I had around this, as you know, if you watch my videos regularly, is that often I use the language of light. Particularly when I've channeled a roseline being, they'll often speak light language at the end. And I've always explained this by saying light language is a frequency and it bypasses the mind. So you're not trying to understand it, you just receive the vibration of it. But where this has taken me now, the next step of that is light language is speaking directly to the waters of your being. It's the waters receiving the light language. Pretty beautiful, huh? So maybe I'll do a little light language blessing from Aphrodite, from the waters, and receive this into the waters of your being. Help Salento Puikeranete, tu kumba da lantre da hanne sete, ha hanne kukula patera neta, asio, kohan. Apueste nitea, ardua ake, aseo natea, atio apue, ayane akula, akua zeya, atea deyan, sohandan. I must say that this piece has dropped in at the perfect time for me. Thank you, Aphrodite, because not only am I visiting this Aphrodite site and taking the group there at the beginning of the Pyrenees journey, but actually the journey I'm taking to Sardinia in early June is called the Priestess of Sacred Waters. And this is one of those journeys I was like, why am I going there? Like when I first went there 2 years or 18 months ago, it was an accidental trip. I wasn't really meant to be there. It was a holiday, and I went, I have to bring a group here. And I just wasn't sure why, because I did not really fully associate it with the rose line. Although the island in the north of Sardinia is called La Maddalena, and I did go there last year, so it's the Magdalene energy. But it was the waters. It's like that we've got to visit the waters. I know we have to go to all these amazing sacred sites in Sardinia where water is the goddess, because that's how the Nuragic people honored her. And now with this gift from Aphrodite, I understand even more or more deeply about this journey. That it's not about simply remembering ourselves as priestesses of the sacred waters. It's a journey of self-love, so that we truly can be priestesses of the sacred waters. So yeah, that's quite beautiful. So anyway, if you want to read about that journey, I've got the links to all my journeys below for this year. And actually, that reminds me, next week, I think it will be next week, I'm planning on creating a longer video. And this video will be about the Roseline sites that I go to in Europe and why I've chosen them. So I'll do it specifically about 2026, but many of them I'm revisiting. And I've designed this video for people, whether they want to, whether they're coming on the retreat with me, whether they would love to come on a retreat with me, or whether they're just fascinated by the sites there and why I've chosen them and what's at those sites. And so I'm actually, it's like I'm going to be a little tour guide and go through the itineraries, but not in sort of a way to sell it and say, come on the journey. It's so that everyone can be activated by it and can understand what the calling has been for me in going to these sites, because I can't explain that on an itinerary. And I want everyone to benefit from this. And this is what happens when I go on the journeys. And some of you may have joined me before through, I hold meditations while I'm away, so that not just the people with me, but everyone can be activated and join together to receive the gifts of these sites that I go to. So I hope to create that video next week. It will be a long video, but it'll be a fun one. And particularly if you feel very drawn to the Roseline and the locations of the Roseline in Europe. Anyway, that's enough for me today. I'm really interested to hear how you feel about this idea of that we heal the waters through our self-love. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? Yeah. Such a blessing. Thank you, Aphrodite. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. So until next time, rose blessings to you.